And now for our weekly League of Ireland / Evan Ferguson watch, it's Vinny Perth. Vinny, how are you?
Good morning. How are we doing?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, have you calmed down?
No. What's the point in calming down?
No fun.
There is no point.
No.
You've seen all this, right? What's your instinct about it?
I don't see it all, to be fair. I coached at more senior level, but
did you not? None of your kids? No.
So, but what you do get told is, and sometimes when I say things on here, I get corrected when I'm finished.
Okay.
Right. So
we should have a section at the top. Yeah. My apologies for last week.
Yeah. So last week's chat around summer football. Not that I was corrected on it. Sort of the argument back is it works around the DDSL works around school, and holidays is sort of the excuse that they come up with, but it's still wrong. But anyway, on your argument now, a lot of the problem is parents and coaches and parents. And going back to, I was at a club once and I tried to take some under 18 players into a senior section, and I was like, no, why would you do that? I don't want them going up to, we're trying to win a league. I was going, yeah, but I'm trying to make them better players. Yeah, but I've had this team since they were under 9s and I want to win a league. I went, so I want to win a league is what you just said. Not the kids, you don't want to make... Yeah, I put 9 years into this.
That's a problem.
I just, to be honest with you, where I was in the situation, I walked away from the conversation. They had a director of football, spoke to him. So over to you, boss. But it is a mixture of parents going, I don't want my son being taken off, I want him to play, he's better than the group he's with. There's all of these, and there's a lot going on in it, to be honest.
So I don't know if you've had a chance to read Arthur James O'Dee's book about Limerick, but he's got a brilliant section about the academy, and there's an interview, or there's a moment where somebody explains how they became aligned, and they call all the underage coaches in, like these are at inter-county level, so obviously they're really good coaches already, and I think that I'm going to butcher this now. Arthur will do a much better job of it. But basically, the question is, whose job is it here to win a title? And everybody puts their hands up, and the guy at the top of the room goes,
Yeah.
The senior manager's job is to win the title. Your job is to get as many players as you possibly can through that will make his team. We don't care if you win titles, but if they come through with the skill set and the technical, tactical, physical know-how about how to get better constantly and become curious about improving themselves, then we are going to...
Titles will probably follow if a club went with that mantra, to be honest with you.
That's the thing.
And that's the thing about it, and it's about...
And actually they become better because they're more relaxed, because they're not like constantly chasing the fifth star a little bit like Leinster.
Yeah, and look, there's nothing wrong with elitism in sport. You have to have that. It's just where you started is the challenge. And if you've got a really good 12-year-old who's been, or 11-year-old playing for a local club, and he's been beaten 5 or 6 and he's really good, likelihood his parents are going to take him out of that and go somewhere else. So that is the problem, and the gaps is still there. Like the side's is being hammered in all levels of football, and that's not good either. And I don't know how you get the balance right on that.
It seems like they're getting better in football. I just can't find the bit where you sent through the team sheets earlier on from the under 17s. But actually, one of the really brilliant things they've done is they've listed off all the clubs that the players have played for and where they've come through. And I think because previously it would have been like, you know, Pats, Rovers, Bows, whatever. There's one at Hull, but they've actually listed off.
That's in Kevin's, Leakslip, Ferrybank, Swords Manor, Swords Celtic, Crumlin United, like Carrigaline, all the local clubs.
There's no one in the League of Ireland saying we're the only ones that can do this, to be honest with you. And we're starting to see a joint up process. Was it managed correctly? No. Did Real Doctor get what he wanted through as director of football at the time? Yes. Did he do it the wrong way? That's what the schoolboy sections would say. But like someone like Mace Amelia, who we would have spoken about before, he's a Wicklow lad. He's from around Newtown, Mount Kennedy. He would have played for Joey's 8 to 13, and then went to Bray Wanderers and has ended up at Pats. So, and obviously being at Joe's, he had to go to the next stage, which was League of Ireland, Bray, and then at Bray he obviously felt I wanted to play at a better standard, which is St. Pat's, and that's okay. Like, and he's gone on to better standard now. He's in around the first team. So there is all of them stories. I always said from the beginning, the problem with how we manage this is we sort of cast aside the Joeys of the world, the Cherry Orchards, and I'm speaking from a Dublin perspective, for Cherry Orchard, St. Kevin's, that was forced a link with Bowes, and it actually worked, and we should have done more of that. Crumlin United, a huge amount of talent and people who had big experience were sort of left behind, but it's starting to come together now, and I think it's very close to being a good system now, and it's, you know, there's a lot of hard work going involved.
One of the other things that I know Colin was asking you about before you came on was about how the scouting system actually works for players who do end up going to the UK, and there's actually a really strict set of rules in place.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, because just go back to my day, you would just went on trial, or even up to 10 years ago, people go on trial. You go to a club, you'd spend 2 weeks, and if you think about it,
it's totally private. No one knows,
right? So and maybe using me has gone back too far, but a guy even 20 years ago would have went to trial. Most likely, if you went to Liverpool, Palace, wherever, Celtic, people didn't see you before you got there, as in the club you were going on trial to.
So they would have had somebody scouting you.
Yeah, so a scout would have sent over 3 or 4 players at a given window, or somebody he really liked, he'd go over, and the club then have a feel for you, train for them with the week, you go into their YTS, or if you were above that level, whatever youth level, you'd play a game the weekend, you'd get sent home, and if they're impressed with you, they call you back. But now it's completely different. The whole sort of FIFA really got a grip of this and set down a real sort of strict rules. So for an Irish player, first of all, when you go over, so if for example, Mason Mealy, bad example, but if a player of St. Pat's or Rovers is going on trial now, the club in England have watched a bit of video. There's a detailed scouting reports. They know the player inside out. So it's more you're not going on trial. It's used that word trial, but you're going to find out about each other a little bit. Okay, and then but FIFA have put in place now. There's a rule now in place where you've only got a 6-week window where it must be registered if you go on trial for someone. So if Vinny Perth goes on trial for Spurs tomorrow, or say on the 1st of January, I've got a 6-week window to go on trial to any club.
Right.
I could go 1 week Spurs United all the way for 6 weeks. They're not allowed to go on any more trials for 1 more year.
A whole year. Wow.
Yeah, and it's like, it's fascinating.
Why is that?
I suppose you've got to give FIFA some credit as well. So think about world football. There's kids flying all over the world. Parents going, oh yeah, we'll send. Like, I don't use they're exploiting kids, but they're just being sent everywhere. Trials, you know, off you go. Clubs are taking chances on people from all over the world, and they're trying to stop kids. Yeah. All over the world, effectively. So when you look at our situation, yes, Brexit hasn't helped us, but also FIFA will not allow an Irish player signed for an English club between 16 and 18, but we've a common travel agreement. So if I wanted at 17 to go to England and become an apprentice electrician, I can, but I can't become a footballer.
Yeah.
And I was saying, I was expecting a big club to challenge that in court, but there doesn't seem to be an appetite to do it, because it's FIFA will control the international transfer.
Right.
So it's really restricted Irish players now in terms of Evan Ferguson was probably the last player to get through that system, and you've got to you can use Evan as a good example, because Evan is now just gone 18, so it was back in on his mother, as typical, will probably hear this and she'll give out to me. I think it's November was his birthday, but Evan only would have went to the UK in November. So you think where he is now?
I know
there's no way he'd be where he is. So that's the challenge for the next Evan Ferguson, or then whoever that may be. And League of Ireland clubs won't like me saying, and this is where I might get a few phone calls, and I know why, and I'm not saying we should, but we ain't able to provide what the really top elite footballers need between 16 and 17 and wait for them to turn 18. And the challenge with that is you may be good enough for 16 and you may just have fallen off a little bit at 18 because of because of form and life and different things, and you say, well, you wouldn't have made it anyway. Well, you've missed a huge opportunity.
Yeah, slight counterpoint, right? Just on the off chance that somebody, the next Evan Ferguson comes through, is there a possibility that they rip up the scoring records in the League of Ireland and get a move to a championship team, and the club gets a better transfer fee up front? So this is the other side of this.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, like what percentage will Bowles end up getting? Is it Kevin's? Was it Kevin's?
Well, yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of that one, right?
Yeah.
No, because you've got to remember, Kevin's is part of his development, and it's every year you get, they'll probably get, Kevin's will probably get more in the fee than Bowles, because he's been at Kevin's for longer. So yeah, of course, like if Evan had stayed, could he have played week in, week out for Bowles? Possibly. I don't know, but I know where if you had a 16-year-old son who was really, really good, I know where you'd want him.
Evan's story, his advantage is that he had a father who was versed in professional football.
No, I don't accept
point is,
that.
as in, he went to clubs like Manchester United and maybe Liverpool and saw the system compared to Brighton and said, well, that fits. That doesn't. Yeah,
but I think some of this is, and I think this is an important point to make, because people listen at different stages, and I'd like to, how do I say this? I know some people listen because I get a lot of feedback around League of Ireland ground. So just like some of the misnomers around, in fairness, there's a lot of ex-players' sons or sports people's sons who do well.
Yeah.
Right? But in no way, shape or form had Barry got Evan out the back garden at 5 o'clock in the morning doing doggies or anything like that.
He's not Frank Lampard Senior, you're saying?
No, and I just think that's important. Like it was less than 3 years ago, I went out the Wayside to watch a skills match Evan was playing in with Barry, and I'm going to say 3 years. It was, I actually remember clearly the day, because it was the day John Delaney was in front of the Oireachtas, so someone would be able to work out. It wasn't that long ago, and I remember he was on trials to United, Liverpool at the time, and saying to Barry, now I knew the answer, but I said to Barry, what's he doing playing here? Because it was probably, I don't know, skilled football, but it was like senior or C level or something. Vinny, he has to play with his mates. Right, so that's not a father who was like making someone eat within an inch of his life. It's not someone like, I've had a Chinese with Evan on a Friday night, so it's not. And I just think it's important to say that kid was allowed to grow up, like, and I think that has helped him. So he was allowed to grow up. He was allowed to make his own choices. When he went on trial, he was at a lot of big clubs, as you said, but I know he liked Liverpool when he went on trial, but Brighton was the one for him, and it was his decision. It wasn't an agent's decision. It wasn't his father and mother's decision. It was, obviously they all had inputs, but it was about a kid saying, this is where I feel really comfortable. And I think that's important, because I have seen and heard of the stories where it's gone the other way, where parents have got someone with a bit of talent and actually spoiled them, where Barry has just let it, and Sarah have just let the kid grow up normally, just so normally.
April 2019 was that game, so four years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago I was watching him play a pretty bog standard skill match out in Wayside at 2 o'clock on would have been a Monday or a Tuesday. And
the picture last night is him beating De Bruyne for a header, and you're like, this is pretty good.
Well, like, that's where we were having Sunday dinner, and the Sky News or Sky Sports was on. Who were they playing? Was the last week, the week before? And you know, when Martin Tyler says, and it's live, and then he starts talking about Evan Ferguson, like it is
pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, like, and it does make the hair stand up and back in. And you don't take that for granted. And it's funny, I heard the discussion, it may have been here yesterday morning or a couple of mornings ago, talking about Keevin Kelleher, and there is another side to these guys that we like, and I do it, and we all do. We talk about them as the footballer. What's brilliant for sort of, the first thing my wife would say would be, Evan signed a new deal. Yeah. What sort? I don't know. I wouldn't ask. But she would see it from a perspective completely outside of football and go, he's probably sorted for life. Yeah, he's close to it, and that's a huge box ticked. And it's a bit like Kevin, where people are going, you know, he should be, for the last 3 years, should be getting out there, should be doing this. Kevin Keller's probably set up for the rest of his life as his kids. Now, comes to the point where personal pride and football and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But there's other sides to all these stories.
Well, he could be Scott Carson type figure who's still playing at 40, 42, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
probably taking 15 grand a week out of Man City, and he dives all over the place and if they need to do a shoot where some supporters scoring against the first team, it's Scott Carson in goal. And hey,
he's delighted.
I take 10, 15 grand a week.
It's the greatest job in the world. Is
and I hope Keevan goes on to do more, but you have to remember, like, he's sitting on a big contract with Liverpool. He's sitting on a huge bonus structure inside it, part of the squad of a Champions League team for the last number of years, and you're going, ooh, will I take a risk of signing for a lower club or a championship club and doesn't go well for a year, or will I just make sure I'm secured? Now, I'm not saying that's what Keevan's thoughts are, but I'm just saying there isn't two sides to all of these stories, and now I hope it's time for him to go off and do his merry dance.
Let's talk about the League of Ireland situation at the moment. Some dropped points, I think, since we were last on, which is good.
Yeah, good news for you. Rovers were beaten. He loves this title race.
He just wants a race, a battle.
Why Stephen Hendry and Steve Davis in me just is like, come on, lads, let's get on with it and go. The best teams have to win. But it's been like, first of all, I think you've got to give credit to Drogheda part-time club and Kevin Doherty. They've been playing quite well recently without getting the results, and they've been drifting down the table, but they were excellent up in Tallaght Stadium. And Freddie Draper, we've mentioned before in the show, talk about Evan Ferguson, he's 18 as well, and he's exactly the same frame, it's probably even bigger, but he scored an outstanding goal on the counter attack. He's on loan from Lincoln. I hope he can hold on to him till the end of the season, but they were excellent on the day. But what this result has done is, you know, it's really tightened up the league again for everybody. It's given people a hope between obviously Bowes and Derry. Derry now have retaken the lead, so it's making it fascinating. The amount of drop points, I just can't get my head around it. The amount of teams losing 3 in a row and then winning 3 in a row, I have to say, you know, I think I speak really highly of Rovers regularly here, but I know the other day was the exception where I think they did 28 shots and 11 on target, but they did have nearly 75% possession. Their ability to have a huge amount of shots on goal is just holding them back at the moment. I think they've got to be a bit more clinical.
Is that I suppose this is the question that we've been asking about them in European football over the last couple of years, is that sometimes you're expecting the form to come, and the form comes in patches, but it hasn't been good enough for them to go, okay, they're in the best form possible when the European fixtures arrive and we're giving them the best chance. I mean, maybe that's unfair. I mean, I'm not characterising it exactly right over the last couple of years, because it seems like they're getting better year on year, but you'd hope that the improvement would be faster.
They're an outstanding side. They're brilliant to watch, all of that stuff. And like the goal, if people listen, think about the goal that he conceded against Drogheda the other day. It's Jack Byrne on the edge of the box, and he's about 5 yards, and he's playing the ball into a striker's feet who is back to goal, and that's how they play. Jack is looking for him to bounce back to go to someone else, and there's and then what happens is that breaks down and Drogheda go and score within 20 seconds, and you're like, I know the statistics of shots, and the reason I bring up, I don't like, Stephen Bradley brought them up after the game with 28 shots, that's a game we should win. Statistically, they're not having loads of shots on goal, because they're a bit like Man City to watch. They're brilliant technicians, but I've said it before in here, and I repeat myself, I'd rather watch a Liverpool Klopp team where it's Trent and Robinson and it's Salah and it's shots, and you know, I'm probably going to concede 2 or 3, and I think they've got to be a bit more clinical as a team to go to that next level, and in Europe you'll probably only get 1 or 2 chances, and you've got to be more clinical, and that will hurt them, because they didn't score enough goals in Europe last year, and that's a blot in their copybook, I would say.
Yeah. Now the other thing is their recent run of form has been really, really good. Yeah. So there's going to be these little, and it's not even a blip to get held in a game like this. But if they were to back it up with So they're at Cork tomorrow. You'd expect them to win this, right? Yeah. That's the situation at the moment. Is you'd expect Shamrock Rovers to beat Cork City, but at the same time, maybe there's a bit of a response from Cork and.
Yeah, like they're one of the great League of Ireland teams of all time, and I don't compare eras, whether it's the Dundalk or the Shelbournes or whatever you want to go back. I don't like doing that because the game has changed. Even in that 20 years, those three sides you could pick out, but they played 17 games and only won 9, so that means they dropped points in 8 games. Like, that's a lot of games, and that's where I would have been critical at different stages of someone like Derry, where Derry now could turn to you, or a Derry supporter will say, "What are you talking about? You're talking rubbish. We're top of the table. We're a point clear." But I see Rovers having these spells where they'll go 7 and 8 games win, and they'll have the odd hiccup here and there, particularly around Europe. And I think some of the other clubs have missed the boat. This Rovers side have dropped points, but. Yeah, look, the other thing we haven't really seen them is Rovers really tested. So, for example, like you said, if Cork were to hold them scoreless after 65, 70 minutes, then you start taking a chance because you're a point behind Derry. And then you go, one of your fullbacks, your centre half runs out with the ball and you concede, and the manager might make a different substitution because he needs to get a win, and that's what we want to see. We want to see the great sides tested, and I think the challenge now is for Derry. Derry have to make sure we have a title race. I think they're the ones best equipped at the moment.
John Daly's first permanent game is Pat's Boss against Dundalk tomorrow night. Like, what's the I guess target for them? Is it silverware this season for Pats now at this stage, or?
I just think, like a lot of these clubs from sort of Bowes, Pats, Dundalk, European football is huge for them, and the rewards is huge. It's, it's close. You're nearly guaranteed £400,000. The appointment of John Daly, just to touch on it briefly, I'm not a believer in appointing an assistant manager to follow a manager who got sacked. I always worry about that because
personal experience.
No, I didn't have any. I followed a manager who left. But what I'll say on John Daly is, I think this one is slightly different. I think he had a good relationship with people, and he's a good lad, and he has a set of balls. That's all I'd say to you, because. And people do be lazy around people like John Daly. John Daly had a great career in Scottish football. I think he was the first Catholic ever to sign for Rangers. He's worked under Craig Levine as well, Hearts as a coach. He's huge experience, and
Craig Johnson would have.
There was Mo Johnson, yeah. But he was one of the very few.
Yeah.
And for an Irish lad from Inchicore, around that area,
fair play.
He's got a lot of stick over the years. So he's got. He's not afraid to make decisions, and he's gone in there and done a great job. I actually think it's a great appointment. I really, really wish him well. Dinty is his nickname, but Dinty will do a really good job there. But Pats I don't want to say it's a sleeping giant. The crowds they're getting is brilliant. It's really high. We need Pats in the title race.
Yeah.
Need them in the title race. They're not there yet, but we need to get them in the title race.
I think once Rovers start dropping points, though, there is a psychological element to it where everybody else starts to think, actually, you know what, we're not beaten just before we go out here. And there was a bit of that for the last few seasons, and that's the sign of the league starting to bubble up and all of that working. Anything else briefly we got to go? But
no, it's obviously an interesting week this week. Pats and Dundalk, as you said, but you must say we shouldn't be given. We gave Sligo a lot of compliments here about 4 weeks ago, and they haven't won a game since.
Slid fairly bad.
So
I'm
sorry for that. I've got a bit of stick about that. But no, look, the Irish 17s, by the way, a lot of home-based players. So
it's 18 of the 20, maybe.
Yeah, no, that's because some of them guys would have been away. But we have to wish them well over the weekend.
All right, Vinny, good stuff.